So another day and we're back for another transfer video. The rumour mill is not slowing down at the moment. In today's video we've got quite a few big deals to go through and a bunch more transfer rumours as well. So as always, if you do go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. We've also got the EFL Cup going on at the weekend as well, so feel free to get your thoughts in the comments down below for how you see that going. We had some teams playing last week, but the vast majority of championship clubs are in competitive action this weekend. Before we do hop into anything though, a big shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, you can find the new OneFootball app in the top line of the description down below. If you want to keep up to date with everything that is going on at the weekend with the EFL Cup, then OneFootball is the place to be. Whenever a goal goes in, get live updates to your phone with OneFootball. You can also check out all the recent transfer speculation and news going around your club, so it's a handy way to stay updated with everything. But without any further ado, let's first talk about some completed deals. So the big one to touch on first, Matty Cash's deal to Aston Villa has now been finalised. He signed a 5-year deal with them worth 16 million going to Nottingham Forest. So, I mean, this is the nature of the Championship, isn't it? If you want to reinvest into your squad, look to reshape things moving forward, you're always going to have one or two saleable assets that leave every now and again. Tremendous season for Forest last time around. I think he'll absolutely go on and smash it at Aston Villa. They were in need of a little bit more dynamism at fullback Aston Villa, so I think Cash will fit in quite well there. I'm interested to see now how they go about replacing him, whether they trust who's already at the club, the likes of Carl Jenkinson and Tendai Darikwa probably being that most similar player to Cash at the club, but with both of them being fairly unreliable with injuries, I'm interested to see if they do invest in that area or not. One player who I think will be an excellent replacement, Nathan Byrne at Wigan, who there doesn't seem to have been all too much interest in so far, which I've been quite surprised by. He was absolutely superb second half of the season for Wigan. That's one possible alternative to look into, but like I say, I wouldn't be surprised if they did trust who they already had at the club. Coventry completed the signing of Ben Sheaf coming on loan from Arsenal for the season. They do have the option to buy at the end of the season as well. In all accounts, I think this one's a really good deal for them. Had an excellent loan spell in League One last time around with Doncaster, and each of the three promoted clubs have been doing some decent business lately. Good tackler in the middle, and there's also got a cool head on the ball. Averaged 2.4 tackles per match last season. Gets stuck in, got a good footballing brain on him, and only 22 years old. Really good deal for Coventry there. Olympiacos striker Miguelguerrero has signed for Nottingham Forest, and now there's obviously a connection between Forest and Olympiacos with the owner. For Olympiacos, in 37 matches, scored 9 goals, spent last season out on loan at Leganés. 30 years old, so he is another fairly experienced player that Forest have added to their forward line. Sheffield Wednesday completed the deal for Josh Windass. This one had been a long time coming, but they have finally managed to get this one over the line. Had a decent loan spell in the second half of the season there last time. Clearly got something about him. Things at Wigan just didn't quite happen for him. And Bristol City completed the signing of free agent Chris Martin. Last season at Derby, had an excellent time there. This one sort of came out of the blue, but by all accounts I think this one's a good deal for Bristol City. Adds a lot of experience into that forward line. Similar player to Framara Jeju. I think he'll be a good alternative to him. Bristol City fans will hope in that he's not coming in as that replacement. I know that Jeju's only got 1 year left on his contract, but by all accounts looks to be close to signing a new deal with Bristol City, which I'm sure all their fans will be happy about. But Martin, I think, really good hold-up player. Also had an eye for goal last season when, I'm not gonna lie, I thought he was finished at Derby, but he ended up turning into one of their more integral players with 11 goals and 6 assists. I think him and Naki Walsh could have an excellent partnership. I think they complement each other's games quite well. 31 years old as well, so still got a lot to give. I think that on a free transfer, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Cedric Kipre has signed for West Brom. Now I'll bring this one up as he was a Blackburn Rovers target, so they'll be looking elsewhere to strengthen their back line. West Brom though, I think are getting a very good deal there. Kipre ended the season fantastically well for Wigan. And then finally, Rotherham have completed a deal for former Leicester City goalkeeper Victor Johansson. The 21-year-old comes in as another option to their goalkeeper department. Obviously, he's going to challenge Blackman this season. But those were some of the completed deals which have gone through in the past couple of days. Now, without any further ado, let's hop into some transfer rumours. Starting out with Karlan Grant. Now, there have been quite a few stories coming out throughout this transfer window so far about Grant being linked away. There seems to have been a bit of a breakthrough between Karlan Grant and the move to West Brom. The fee being talked about at the moment, anywhere between 16 and 18 million. Now, at 22 years old, scored 19 goals and got 4 assists in the Championship last season. It's no surprise to see why. If he was to make that move to West Brom, I'd imagine he'd be going there as a striker. They need a bit more of a mobile player up front, don't they, with the likes of Charlie Austin, Kenneth Zohore and Hal Robson-Kanu there at the moment. I know he played a lot of his football on the left-hand side for Huddersfield last season, but the players that West Brom have got in that squad at the moment, a striker's what they need, and if they were spending that amount of money, I'd imagine he'd be going there as a striker. Did play 17 matches up front for Huddersfield last season. The rest of his games were played out on that left-hand side where he cut inside on his right foot. But by all accounts had an excellent season for Huddersfield last time round. I'm a massive fan of him. He joined Huddersfield in January 2019 from Charlton, played a handful of games for them in the Premier League and actually scored a fair few goals for them considering the game time. For West Brom, it's by no means a cheap deal, but for a 22-year-old who's bagging almost 20 goals in the Championship, that is the sort of going rate. For Huddersfield though, they're walking a bit of a tightrope and they need to make sure they replace his goals, because if they don't, I could see them struggling. That's a whole bunch of quality that could be ripped out from their squad there. And another Huddersfield player who could be on his way out, Steve Meunier, with his links to France at the moment. Saint Etienne seem to be interested. Now, if Huddersfield were to lose both Karlan Grant and Meunier, that's over 50% of their goals scored from last season leaving their squad. Karlan Grant bagging 19, Meunier with 8, 27 goals both of them scored, which is over 50% of the 52 that Huddersfield scored in the league last season. So it would obviously then be a bit of a job to replace them both. They'd be left with Josh Campbell and Danny Ward, their new signing, as their two striker options. So if those two deals were to go through, Huddersfield definitely got a bit of work to do with that forward line. Middlesbrough are chasing West Brom forward Kenneth Zohore. They're looking for a loan to buy option if the recent reports are to be believed. Now, obviously with Neil Warnock and Zohore previously working together from Cardiff, they already had that relationship together. You can see where this rumour's come from. Warnock's already spoken about wanting to get 2 more strikers in before the end of the transfer window, and I think really this one ticks a lot of boxes for Middlesbrough. He's not had the best of times at West Brom, really hasn't been given much of a chance, let's be honest. He only made 5 starts in the league for them last season, then got 12 appearances off the bench. In that time scored 3 goals for them, but you can't really judge his record at West Brom too much because the sample size is too small. Going back to his time at Cardiff, in the 16-17 season, he was their main talisman going forward, scored 12 goals and got 5 assists. And then in their promotion season from the Championship to the Premier League, once again played a vital role in that with 9 goals and 5 assists. The jump up then to the Premier League didn't suit him as much. His game time was limited as he only scored 1 goal. But linking up with former manager Neil Warnock might be the best thing for his career at the moment. Borough fans, what do you guys make of this one? I think he'd be a much better alternative to Sonogo, who's also been linked. And sticking with Middlesbrough, they're also looking at Wigan captain Sam Morsi. Now, Wigan players are being picked off one by one. One player who I've been surprised has not been more interesting so far has been Sam Morsi, another player to end the season fantastically for them. Really good, energetic midfielder who can also add a little bit going forward as well. Got 3 goals and 3 assists last season, but a good character to come into the dressing room. Averaged over 2 tackles per 90 last season. And he does add a bit of grit and fight into that midfield, doesn't he? Loves the yellow card, booked 12 times last season. I think from that Borough side last season, one thing they could do with a little bit more is a bit more energy. I know it's a bit of a general term that, but someone like Sam Morsi could be a really underrated player who would be a bit of a gem to pick up. Tom Carroll looks as if he could be on his way back to QPR as well. He was let go by Swansea last season and has struggled with injuries recently, hasn't he? He previously had a loan spell with QPR in the 13/14 season. I'd argue as well is a Mark Warburton type player as well, very tidy on the ball, albeit he is a bit lightweight. Probably a similar type of player to a Luke Amos, who they've also signed, so Tom Carroll would come in and add a bit more squad depth into that midfield. Also, one that I thought would be worth mentioning, Brewster. By all accounts, Klopp's looking to keep him at Liverpool this season, or at least until January. He wants him to be in and around the first team, so that would rule out any loan moves to the Championship. Swansea, of course, were going to be one club who was going to be interested. Fantastic for them last season, 11 goals in 21 starts. You can see why the hype's there. I massively rate him. His movement is absolutely exceptional. He's got that killer instinct going forward. So obviously for that reason, Swansea will be setting their sights elsewhere. Now hopping over to Aston Villa, who have been linked with a move for Nicholas Eliasson. Now, very interesting one this time round. Obviously, Villa's interest in Benrahma has been reported all throughout the window. For a cheaper alternative, though, it's looking as if they could be turning towards Eliasson of Bristol City. Now, an interesting player last season, absolutely superb. 3 goals and 12 assists in fairly limited game time. He only started 18 matches, then had 19 appearances off the bench. Tactically, didn't really fit into the starting 11 at Bristol City, did he? So he was mostly used as that impact substitute. Going into next season, is he going to fit in if they are once again going with those wing backs and 2 up front? There's no real way to fit a player like Eliasson in, which is a real shame because he's an absolute baller. You know, his creative stats were right up there as one of the best in the Championship last season, despite the lack of game time. But for Aston Villa, though, like I said, this would be the cheaper alternative to going after Said Benrahma. Elisson's only got 1 year left in his contract now. Bristol City fans, I'd love to get your view on this one. And speaking of Said Benrahma, West Ham have been the latest Premier League club to be linked with Grey Dangana making that move to West Brom. I know that a lot of West Ham fans aren't happy about this one. That money could then be used to be reinvested into buying Benrahma. That's the latest rumour going around at the moment, but I think this Benrahma talk's going to continue to rumble on throughout the window. I don't think that anything's going to be finalised anytime soon. And then hopping back over to Aston Villa, in the last video we spoke about their links to Ollie Watkins. This time round, they have had a bid rejected for Bournemouth striker striker Callum Wilson. Aston Villa offering 50 million plus 5 million in add-ons. Apparently Bournemouth wants 17 million up front. Newcastle believed to be the other Premier League club who are in the race for the Bournemouth striker. Understandable to see where the interest has come from. In the Premier League with Bournemouth, his goal scoring record was very good. Scored 8 goals last season. The season before that got 14 goals and 9 assists in his best season. But what I am interested to find out is if Villa do carry on and pursue this deal, get this one over the line, what does that mean for Ollie Watkins? Is he still going to be on their radar? Villa are obviously not a club who's been shy of spending money in the transfer market recently, so I wouldn't put it past them, but it's one that could certainly affect the other Ollie Watkins deal. Watford are reportedly interested in Barcelona midfielder Busquets. He spent last season out on loan at FC Twente and could come in and plug a few gaps for Watford. Can either play as a holding midfielder or as a ball-playing centre-half. Potentially Watford are working on a loan-to-buy deal for this one. Obviously any player that's come up through Barcelona is going to come with, you know, great pedigree. He's 21 years old. I'm interested to see if that one goes anywhere. Of course, in the last video we spoke about their interest in Matt Grimes as well. And it's looking as if Norwich have won the race for Burnley centre-half Ben Gibson. The centre-back was always going to be the priority for Norwich in this transfer window. They've been really busy recruiting in other areas so far. A whole host of other clubs have been linked to Ben Gibson throughout the window. You know, Middlesbrough very interested, Forest as well been talked about. But I think this one could turn out to be a decent one for Norwich. Obviously his time at Burnley hasn't really worked out, but from his time at Borough was an excellent player. All round I think that one looks like a good deal. Swansea centre-half Ben Cabango has been recently linked to Leeds United. Now I'm sure Swansea fans are going to be wanting to keep hold of Cabango. It was really a breakthrough year for him last season, especially playing that 3 at the back, really effective in that system. Only 20 years old as well, so he's someone who Swansea have high hopes for the future for. We'll see over the next few weeks if there is actually anything in that. Bertrand Celine, there's also been another Swansea player who's been linked away. He's been linked to French club Dijon. Now, Bertrand Celine, a bit of a frustrating time last season for Swansea, just got the 2 goals and 2 assists. He was in and out of the side throughout the season, couldn't really nail down a place in the starting 11. He was played all over, you know, on the left, on the right, through the middle. The previous season, he was quite an effective player for Swansea though, got 5 goals, 6 assists that year. He's very much a confidence player, I think it's fair to say. Clearly a very talented player and is someone who pops up in moments. Those moments were just quite few and far between last year. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's episode of the Championship Transfer Rumour Roundup. As always, if we missed any, leave them in the comments down below. We got a lot of stuff coming up, obviously. The Championship is back next week. We got competitive action going on at the weekend as well with all the games in the EFL Cup, so it should be a really good one. If you went on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and please do subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But apart from that guys, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.